Another life series over in the books.
Oh man, I miss it already.
I know. I'm bummed.
Every time the season ends, I'm just like, oh, is the next one beginning soon?
I know.
What number season was this?
So I think this is 6, right? And because we had, all right, first one was
Third Life,
and then Last Life, and then Double Life, which is a sore point for me. It's the only one I wasn't able to make. Yeah.
Limited Life,
Secret,
and
then now Wildlife.
Yeah. And that's if you exclude the VR one that we did for the April Fools.
Yeah, but I mean, that was a fun day. But
fun spoof. Yeah.
In terms of an actual season, so here we are at the end of it, and we typically like to revisit what the season was like and where our brains were, and every step of the way, and revisit some of the more impactful moments and fun moments. So let's do it. Let's take it. This was a crazy season.
It was. I really liked I don't like the word gimmick, but I like the concept. Yeah, that's a better word. The concept of it. So we had like the Secret Life thing where we had a task given at the beginning of the episodes.
Yeah.
This one was a spin for the whole server.
Yes.
Right? Like everybody got this chaos ensued on them and had to figure out how to deal with it individually.
On the spot. Like everybody was undergoing OJT, or as we call on-the-job training, where all of a sudden the wild card would kick in. We never knew when it was coming. It would just start, and we didn't know what it was going to be. And it was always unique and so much fun, and it just kept us on our toes.
And some of the ideas, like some of the actual cards that came about were just insane. Like I expected the normal stuff that you think of, like creepers raining from the sky, the floor turning into lava, that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
not a snail chasing me for an entire episode to try to kill me. That was what?
I actually watched that episode with my wife, and she was like, "This episode is exhausting," because she's like, the snail. It's like it was just keeping her on edge the entire. I'm like, that's sort of the brilliance of it. You know what I mean? And we're all just trying to navigate these waters. We're trying to create alliances. We're trying to create narrative. We're trying to, we're creating a live improvised story here, but at the same time, don't plant your feet too long because your snail's going to, what I mean? So it's just, and that was just one of the wild cards.
And the other thing that's mind blowing is like the development work that must have taken place behind the scenes to make a custom model, make it act like it had to be able to teleport to the player or go up high. And the fact it could drown underwater. Like I can't imagine how much work actually went into like meeting with the developers and going through these different ideas and testing.
I have no, it's all so over my head. I like the whole time we were enjoying, the show and making it. I'm like, God, how blessed am I that I get to just show up and just have fun. I have no idea.
Oh, thank goodness for green.
It's nice for some of us, isn't it?
Well,
the rest of us, some of us had to actually put in the work behind the scenes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Put in the hours.
We're super happy and we're grateful. Let's just say that we're super grateful for how much work you were putting into it behind the scenes.
No, it was all intentional, to be honest with you. And despite what there were some exceptions, but despite what people might think, it was genuinely kept like top level secret the whole time. Every wild card, I think, except the last two. The last two, everyone knew that they knew that there were going to be superpowers, and they knew the finale would contain all the other wild cards.
Yeah,
but
that's because
everything else.
Technically, we had to do something, right? We had to make the key bind to activate the superpower. So there really was no keeping that from us. But it was funny though how, like, every week you would have a new mod for us to add to our folder based on what was going to happen this week. And every time we get a file from him, like, it would say stuff like creeper rain.
Yeah, just to throw us off.
Yes. So obviously, like, I had to get everyone to put a mod in their mod folder for certain things to work. Not everything, because I'll talk about it later. There was data packs and mods. And every time you needed a mod, I didn't want it to be spoiled before the session started, so instead of like snail, it said creeper rain, and everyone was like, "Oh my god, there's going to be creeper rain!" And to the point where I think in the session, Scar went, "So where's the creeper rain?"
Yeah.
Oh, because he read the file name that he wasn't supposed to read.
Yeah,
and
I really bigged it up as well. I was like, "Guys, do not read the mod file; it will spoil it."
Yeah,
and they still did it. This is why I can't trust them.
Well, this was I actually didn't. I actually found a way.
How?
I'm like, I'm like, don't even look. Just like, avert your eyes and just drag it in. It's going to ruin it. And I didn't. And then we get in there and somebody's like, so where's this creeper rain? I'm like, well, I guess that's what it said. And then, then I was expecting creeper rain.
Yeah.
But it was
I literally hid underneath an awning when that one started, expecting it to come down. Yeah, I saw the file name. I can't copy paste a file without seeing the name. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Exactly. I knew people would see it. That's why it was. I did actually say it in jest, but everyone took it super seriously.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh man, I'm really sorry. I saw the name. I was like, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
And Mumbo and I had a very, very slight edge because we were on, Green's team, if you will. Which I kind of we're going to rewind a little bit in just a second here to talk about how that happened. But we were together with Green, so he never told us what to expect, but we always had a teeny tiny edge where he'd be like, you might be safer up here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just like little
Didn't
tidbits.
do you much good though, did it?
No, we were still the first two out.
How hard was that for you, Green? Like to know what was coming, but also have to kind of like not give it away or at least still play the game, even though you had this insider
Christmas
knowledge.
every day where I'd got everyone the best present possible and I couldn't say anything and I had to wait for Christmas every single week. That's what it felt like. I had to wait for everyone to get on and see what was created. And obviously the wildcards vary in their interestingness, shall we say. Going the size one where you go smaller or bigger was just something to sort of ease us into the concept. I wasn't all that excited about people seeing that one, but it still led to some pretty funny moments. But when the snail one, I think I said, I didn't give anyone information, but I did say I'm so excited for session 3. I'm so excited. And that's just because of the insane amount of development time that went into it. So essentially what happened behind the scenes was I've got now a very lovely robust team, but when it started I had one guy called Brace who does data pack stuff, and I approached them about creating a data pack for each wildcard and laid out all the ideas, and most of them were fairly easy to implement data pack wise. The size one is just something you can do with Minecraft attributes. But then I hit him with the, hey, what about a snail that follows you everywhere? And he went, he basically said it's not possible. He tried, and there was a really janky, unusable version, but I couldn't get the idea out of my head. I couldn't let it go. I just couldn't. I was like, I know that this will be funny. So I approached some mod developers that are prominent in the community, Henkel Max. He actually does the voice mod. So, we're already aware of each other, and he's helped out with a ton of different mods and stuff. He's so talented. And I explained about, I've got a few weeks. Can we make this snail mod? And the answer was, yeah, no problem.
Oh my God. Wow.
And he said, can I drag someone else in? And he dragged in someone called Breadloaf. And between the two of them, it was like Batman and Robin. Like they just made it work so well. And I think some people definitely did appreciate quite how complex the snails were, but maybe they don't know quite how complex the snails were in a way, because obviously everything had to be designed on how everything you could think of to thwart a snail. We had to design a way to counteract that, but Minecraft pathfinding is an absolute nightmare to deal with. So they did everything from scratch, and I can even send you guys a clip here so you can see what the snail sees.
Ooh,
yes,
so they created this debugging thing where you can see what the snail sees. It creates a path to you, the best path it can come up with, and it individually marks each block and identifies what it is. But as with Minecraft pathfinding, as we know, trapdoors are a problem, rails are a problem, lava, water, all these things are huge issues, and everything had to be overcome.
Wow.
Well, okay. All right. I'm not a developer, but I know enough about development to know when something's impressive. And I remember when the snail was pursuing me, and the fact that I couldn't shake it, I could get away from it, but I couldn't shake it. That's when I was just like, okay, there is real genius behind what's going on here.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine how complex this was to
My
write.
first thought was it was a reskinned Endermite, and that if I just get out of line of sight, I could lose it, and it just kept coming. So at that point, I was like, oh, same epiphany came to my head. I was like, oh, actually a lot went into this.
Yeah.
And then when it went underwater and bubbles appeared,
Yeah.
I was like,
that was
okay.
evil. That was, I will admit, like that had to be removed. We'll talk about the changes that had to happen. But yeah, the snails were mighty impressive, and I've got to kind of push a lot of the, you know, the impressiveness onto the team, because behind the scenes, I actually did the least work. Coming up with the ideas and saying, hey guys, I need this by next week. That's the easy part. Like, I did the least work. They were the ones that put the copious amounts of hours into the development of it, right? Like they did so much. I can't even express how hard they worked on this and how impressed I was and how amazing it ended up, and it was just everything worked out. The only thing I will say that I kind of maybe possibly messed up on was the snails were a bit too fast. It was Snailgedon in session 3.
I think I've seen like a chart of how many deaths there were each session, and that snail session was just like the biggest bar ever.
I think at one point, like when we were done recording that day, Green's all, I did not expect that much death on this episode. There's snails.
The thing is, during testing, it really wasn't that difficult to run away from them, and I guess I just got too used to it. And here's a problem that I've had throughout the development of this entire series, is testing it behind the scenes with a handful of people is nothing compared to recording with 18 people who don't know what it is.
And then you throw in the people like Skizz, Jimmy, Scar, Mumbo, who are going to do the weirdest things that you would never anticipate. Yeah. And have to hope it still works.
Well, I will say we did develop to the lowest common denominator. So we really thought about how the people would struggle the most with it, rather than worrying about how well other people would do with it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
because we've talked about this on our podcast, where in real life I like to play with fire. Like I happened upon a rattlesnake and I tried to get as close to it as possible because I'm an idiot. Well, here it's a Minecraft snail that's brilliant, so I want to get close. But I got too close, and I didn't know what the range was, so that's how I got the smoke that time. And then I got smoked on it a second time because I literally had no idea where it was. I was on top of a tree and it came up through the leaves and got me. And it was so fast. My jump scare and my scream was real, dude. Yeah. And I was, but there's
in the finale, even though the snail was like 60% of the original speed, at one point I turned around and he was there and he was right next to my face, and I heard, and I thought, my God, I'm gonna die. It really scared me, dude. Like, having the snail slower is almost more scary because you just get a bit more complacent.
Yeah.
The addition of the sound effect to the snail, like having, and I think most people know now that it was Ollie, right? Ollie's voice.
Yeah, it was the Orion sound.
Actually what cost me a life, because I heard it a little bit and I wanted to hear it more. And so I played with fire just because I wanted to hear it. And I thought, I'm going to be able to hear it and still get away because, I'll have enough time. Nope. No, that thing like
so fast.
Jumps so fast. But I got a chance to hear it, you know. And so for me, it was like, okay, I got the death, but at least I got to hear the ooh-wee. Yeah. It was so good.
There was a huge amount of sound bites that Ollie did. And when we were going through the development stuff, the visuals are obviously so important. The snail is actually nothing if it doesn't have all the polish around it. And I want to quickly shout out Danny, who did the models and the animations, more importantly, as well, for that. Like, there's, you didn't really get to see it too much, but when it falls from the sky, it's got a little parachute and he just goes, what? It's brilliant. It feels alive. The snail feels like a true sort of entity with a character and stuff. It is really like well put together. And then Ollie did the voice lines for it. But the thing was that during testing, when we first got these lines, it just sounded like Ollie. Like, it didn't sound like a snail. It was just, I was just like, I can't just have Ollie chasing me. It just felt weird. It was genuinely just sounded like him. So we pitched it up. All of a sudden, snail. And it was perfect. Just slightly pitched up to the point where even people who know him so well were not sure who it was. So it worked out brilliantly.
Yeah, I didn't catch on that it was his voice.
Yeah, I didn't either. Well, in fact, I was so like petrified of what was going on that I missed a lot of the sounds until later when I was editing. And I was editing, then I would actually isolate that just so for myself so I could hear it. I'm like, man, there was a lot of like little noises that this thing was making after when it was about to attack you, what it did after it got you. It was all very well thought out, and I didn't even like pick up on it in real time because I was just so panicked. You know, Impulse, you dodged your snail once. Do you know that?
Did I?
Yeah, it was the most ridiculous. I didn't know it could happen, but you came up on it. You took a step back. It missed you by a pixel, and it shot up over your head.
Oh wow!
And I was like, does he even know how lucky he is? That was crazy.
It was really important that we made sure that it gave you fair warning. So that's why he stops, does a wiggle, and goes ooh-ee. But if you're hearing the ooh-ee, you're probably already dead.
Too late. Yeah, I learned that lesson.
But it was really important to give like plenty of feedback. That's why there was like the squelchy noises. And as much as my brain tries to think of everything, one of the things I didn't think of was that some people on the server had their friendly creatures down, like the sound was down on their slider. So they didn't hear the snail almost at all because he wasn't the loudest to begin with. And if they had it down to 10%, they basically couldn't hear him. So that made it possibly way worse for those individuals. But of course, I never thought to actually check if everyone can hear him like that. Because I just,
that makes sense. I keep mine at 50%. And so, there
you go.
Yeah.
It's because cows and stuff are so loud,
yeah,
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. In again, with the power of hindsight and testing with 18 people that all play Minecraft differently, I would have known to put him on his own slider.
I like this. I like you're talking about all the things that you learned as you went through this whole process. Can we go back to the first one? I know you said it wasn't like that big of a thing, but the growing and shrinking part, was there anything that surprised you about that once it was actually in play?
Yeah, let's go chronologically. That makes more sense than just talking about the snail for 20 minutes.
Yeah, obviously we could talk about we could just talk about the snails because it was epic.
Yeah, the snails
I think it will be the
own,
most memorable thing of the series. But yeah, let's go back. Let's talk about the first one because you said it wasn't that big of a deal. But I do feel like there was probably some things that caught not only you by surprise, but obviously us as well.
Because the concept was so simple, it probably had the least testing. It was more like, oh, this works, done. That was it. What I didn't anticipate is the falling off the blocks. That's the bit that I didn't realize. Like when you're testing and you're making sure these works, you're not hanging on the edge of a block testing it. And so when we got in the game and all of a sudden, as you would normally, you're hard coded to crouch on the edge of a block so you don't fall off. Suddenly you just slip because your model shrinks physically. So when you tick over that pixel on the edge, which doesn't happen it's not difficult for that to happen, right? So you literally tick over, boom, you're gone, and there's nothing you can do, and it feels like your stomach falls. It feels like you're falling in real life. It's actually really horrible.
Who was the first person to learn the hard way on that one? Pearl?
I feel like it was Pearl.
I think it was
Pearl. I think Pearl maybe died from it.
She did.
Yeah, straight away.
Now I remember before the session, I mean we're really peeling back the curtain, but before the session you wouldn't tell us obviously what it was, but you did say like, I don't think this is something anyone's going to die from.
Yeah.
You must have been a bit shocked when Pearl fell to her death.
Well, but we also agree, and we had one of the most epic sections of the season was when Mumbo fell, and then you fell, and then I fell. Like, it was the same spot.
We're all the same thing, and I even look up and I'm scared. Don't do it! Don't come down here! And you're like, you do exactly the same thing. Unbelievable. But that one of my favorite moments from that first session was when I fell, but I was so small that I missed the dripstone. Because I fell in between it, and I would have died then.
Yeah.
And as we with any life series, what we don't want is everyone losing all their lives in the first session, because then we haven't got a series.
Yeah.
And despite people thinking that this is scripted, it's as organic as we can possibly make it.
Yeah.
So if there was a death, there was a death. And when Pearl died pretty quickly and early on, I started fanning my shirt going, uh-oh.
Yeah.
I mean, you did have some foresight,
I forget something?
right? You had the foresight to make it so that we all started with 6 lives, right? Was it 6?
6, yeah.
Yeah, which is more than usual. So you did know the wildcards were going to cause some death and chaos, and that's why I'm assuming that's why you had that foresight, right, to give us that extra bit of buffer that we don't usually have.
Yeah, so when I was testing, I was realizing how easily and quickly and sometimes unfair it can feel to die to a wild card. So I figured that you could allocate 3 deaths to the wildcards and 3 deaths to other players, and then it would feel like a normal series.
Yeah. I think that's about right. I know
It should be, but
I know I died to my snail 3 times, so.
You 3 times?
Well, I'm in the finale.
Well, Skizz died to Tango at least twice, so I'm not far off the money.
Those are cold-blooded murders. The first one. The
You're
first
still
one
very
was
angry about the Tango stuff.
first one's complete. It was so funny because here's how the dynamic was working in the Sub 1 Club, okay? Was me, Mumbo, and Green were just a fantastic trio. It was so much fun working with you guys and doing what we were doing. But it was very clear early on that I was a liability. So it's Mumbo, but I'm the bigger liability. So there's nothing I could do right. Nothing, including I can't even die right. So I get murdered in cold blood by Tango, and Grian is about to give me some static, and here comes Mumbo running over. He's all, it was a murder. It wasn't his fault. Like, he just it starts backing me up right away. And it got so funny. And so now we're off to the races. Tango's going to be, that's who I'm going to be gunning for. So obviously as soon as I was red, I smoked him. But it was one of those situations where it was like, these things happen. This is all proof how this is not scripted. You know what I mean? It's like we didn't.
Yeah. Could you imagine me trying to write a script for the 18 cogs in the mechanism and saying, well, this is what you need to do and say.
Right. Yeah. It's
you
not
need to
gonna
do
happen.
this. It's just unrealistic. It's not something I'm interested in.
I mean, but so many amazing moments happen that it is hard to believe it's not scripted.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. I'll tell you. So the devs, right? They're actually, I think what made them so perfect for this is that they watched the series and they really like the series as well.
Good.
So they know exactly what we're looking for with something like this. And they said to me behind the scenes, and I hope they won't mind me saying this, they said, I can't believe how much falls into place when you record. I can't believe how perfect everything is. Like all the time, like the way that the narrative just falls is just perfect.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, this is why people think it might be scripted, but it's not. It's just the way it happens. But I do think that people brush under the carpet the stuff that goes wrong and they just focus on the stuff that lands perfectly. There's plenty of times where you just die to nothing or an accident, or do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
caught in the
there's
crossfire.
plenty of it that's not perfect.
That was one of my seasons where I was just like always caught in the crossfire, just unlucky.
Yeah.
Wrong place, wrong time.
Oh, that was I was the king of that. I came running across the entire server to meet up with Mumbo, and as I'm coming up the stairs, I just blew up. And it was because somebody had been targeting him for like 20 minutes. They missed him entirely, and they got me the second I got there. I died a lot.
So the shrinking and growing thing, it was fun. It was a little bit glitchy, if we're going to be honest, right? It was hard to jump over blocks because it was trying to grow you as you jumped.
Exactly. It was a bit janky.
But it was fun. And like you said, it was like a way to just kind of dip our toes in, let people kind of see where it was going. And obviously you don't want to come out with like the snails as episode 1 and then have the rest of the season go down from there. You kind of built up. You ramp up like a climax in a movie.
Yeah, I think you nailed the growing and shrinking one was an introduction to what this series is about to be like. As in, don't think you ever understand what you're about to see because it's always going to catch you off guard. And it did so off guard. Mumbo and I, we were like way different in size, and it took us forever to realize that we were growing and shrinking for the longest time. But once we knew, then the Sub 1 Club was born, and other people wanted to stay big, and it just made for a lot of really, really fun moments.
It was, yeah.
I think the discovery aspect of it, I think, is the bit that I obviously missed out on because I knew what they were, how well they worked, etc. So I didn't get that part of it at all. So what for you guys, like, what was it like when you logged in? Were you nervous to find out what happened, or what was it like?
I was nervous, but like also I'm so like not perceptive at all about my surroundings and stuff that like I would pretty much just wait until my teammates figured out what it was because I knew I was never gonna figure out like what the heck was going on with anything. So
no, we all worked. So for me, you talked about it being Christmas and having presents for people. Well, we were on the receiving end of that, and every single time it felt like a present, a new present I got to unwrap. So when those dots would come up and I knew that the wild card was kicking in, my heart would start to race a little bit because you never know what it's going to be. You don't know if your current situation is putting you in imminent peril. You don't know what you're dealing with. You don't know if it's going to be dangerous or funny or whatever. You're just waiting, and then it just reveals itself. And this takes us to, what was the second one? Was the second one the eating one?
The eating one, I think, right?
Yeah, where you had to just figure out what to eat and what not to eat. And there were like 8 of us all bundled up,
just
trying to
chomping down on random things. Right?
Well, we didn't know what the wild card was, and all of a sudden somebody was like, "I'm eating my sword!" Like it was just, we were freaking out, and we finally started to realize, like, oh my gosh, food is not food, and we're off to the races. And as soon as we figured it out, it changes up again. The menu changes again, and I don't know. I wonder. I'm curious for you, G. Did that end up taking more lives than you saw coming?
I actually can't. I think my brain has blocked out that episode. I actually can't remember. Oh wait, no, you starved. Mumbo starved. It's coming back. A few people starved. I think it did what it was supposed to do. A few people starved, mainly at the start. By the time we got into the episode, people stopped dying from hunger in that one. So it did what I hoped it would in that moment.
Yeah,
it's difficult for me. I didn't know, genuinely. I didn't know what food was food. So I obviously knew I could eat anything, but I had no idea what was going to give me food or what was going to. So when I can, I try and make sure I don't have all the variables, because otherwise I'm not going to have any fun.
Right.
And one of the bits of kind of valid criticism that I have to deal with is, oh, it's so unfair that Grian knows all the stuff. Why doesn't he just get someone else to do it? And for me, that's like if you said, why don't you get someone else to record your videos?
Right.
Like, it just doesn't work. I can't do that. Do you know what I mean? It's if I'm making the series, I'm making the series. I can't outsource that to someone and just hope they get it all right.
Yeah, you're the brainchild behind the Life series in general, and the concept of having wild cards. And then I know that you had, as we were developing the series way before the season started, you'd kind of reached out and said, hey, does anybody have any ideas? I will admit, now seeing what has transpired with the wild cards, my idea that I sent Grian was so lame compared to like what was come up with, because I was stuck. I was stuck inside the box. What was my idea? Oh, I wanted to do a scavenger hunt. Yeah, that was it. A scavenger hunt. So somewhere on the server there'd be some sort of relic that was hidden. And then the idea is that everybody goes and tries to find that. First person to find it would get some sort of buff. And so it would be like everybody would be searching and kind of like fighting to do a scavenger hunt. But I was very much thinking inside the box as far as like what could be accomplished with vanilla Minecraft, and specifically like even data packs. The fact that we went as far as having actual mods and models added to the game was something that I had never once considered when you had kind of like reached out for concepts from the group.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what my idea was, because I'm with you. I'm like, oh, okay, now I've seen what the actual wild cards are. But my idea was, every interval of time or whatever, everybody turns into a random mob, a random passive mob, and you don't know how many. So let's say I became a sheep. I don't know who else is a sheep. I don't know how many of them there are. But the idea is this: you have X amount of time to find your pack, or you all lose a life. So it's like you would have sheep from all over the server just running around trying to recognize where other sheep are, and as long as they all get as soon as they get in proximity, you get green, and you made it through that round.
It reminds me of that weird deer game that we played. Remember that?
Oh yeah, yeah, that's what it would look like too.
I won't say exactly what they were, but before the season started, I kind of put a list of criteria of what would constitute a good wild card.
Yeah.
And for one reason or another, your guys' ideas like didn't tick a box, and that's why it wasn't implemented, right?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I created this like list and then tried to follow that as much as possible. Some of them did break my own rules, but I guess that's part of it, to be honest. Like, you gotta break them sometimes.
So did you feel pretty solid about the eating one? Like, how did you feel in post? Like after, if we do a post-mortem in retrospective on this, was the eating one, did that go as well as you were hoping for, or how did you feel?
Actually, yeah, I think it was one of those. It was a bit like the size one, where it wasn't the most exciting thing in the world, but it did produce some pretty funny moments. Mm-hmm. Like you just eat something and then start floating in the air. Yep. It was really funny.
I was cursing you so hard because I was stuck in a cave and I had the food I needed, but then it switched. like
Yeah.
in the middle of a fight with a skelly. And then I had no food that actually get my hearts back up, and I was going to die. Like, I came really close to dying, and I was like, come on, the timing of it. So yeah, it definitely did add some drama.
One thing we did do with the food one was it was slightly weighted, so that things that are super common in the world, dirt, cobble, wood, they will never give you anything good. Like they were never going to give you food because they were just too readily available. So you always had to craft something or go deeper or, you know, find the obscure stuff to get the good food. I don't know what they were, but I knew that cobblestone was never going to cut it.
That's crazy. So I was just thinking it was random. Did the developers go through and assign every single item in the game? Because there's hundreds of items. How did they manage that?
I don't know because I told them not to tell me.
Okay.
But they just weighted common stuff.
Wow.
Into this is Brace in particular, by the way, who did the data pack for this one. He did some Minecraft trickery to turn, you know, items into food. You can't normally eat your sword, and it actually ended up with us being unable to stack a few items. But he like, you know, custom coded something so that we could restack them. It was very clever. But yeah, he just weighted the common stuff. I think he basically took the common stuff and weighted it, and then everything else was random. If that makes sense. So you didn't have to do every single item, just the common stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. Well, that also.
But you
go ahead.
go on. Oh.
No, that also led to one of the funniest moments again was when we were doing floater chicken. We were the floaters, and we decided to see who could come the closest to the ground. And I went way up in the air.
Dude, I thought you were gonna go. Like I really thought you were gonna go. And then you placed blocks and it made it so much worse.
Because I was eating. I tried to eat.
That was a great moment. Yeah, it was a great moment.
And the way
that's the sort of stuff I'd never think of in a million years of that happening, like that moment.
Yeah, and that's the stuff that's not scripted. It comes from us being
reckless as well. It comes with us being like, you're never gonna get anything exciting like that if you just sit around eating dirt hoping for the best.
That's correct.
You got to mess around with
if you're walking on eggshells the whole time, how much fun is that to watch, right? And don't get me wrong, I didn't want to die. And I'll be honest with you, when I was eating, it was cobblestone that made you float. And when I was eating the cobblestone on the way down, plummeting, I remember thinking, there's no way it takes this long to eat, because that's what it felt like as I was plummeting. And I got so close, I ended up, because I was holding down right click, I placed a few blocks once I did it. And the way I edited the music to it, Mumbo and Grian had two polar opposite reactions. Grian just starts yelling at me. He's like, Skizz, you have less than one brain cell, Skizz. He's freaking out. And Mumbo's like, yeah, but that's a +1. Awesome.
Yeah. Mumbo's the kind of guy that, like, you fail a backflip off of a skateboard and he just sticks his thumbs in the air and goes, sick. You know? I would be going, Mumbo, are you okay? Is your head okay? Look at me, bro. What's going on? And he'd be like, it was wicked.
That's so true. That is so Mumbo. You're right though, Skizz, about like part of the series. Obviously, you know, a lot of us do want to win, but it's all about the content. It's all about creating moments and goofing and stuff. And if you are kind of like always just trying to be super careful, you're not going to have the most engaging content. So there is that side of it. At the same time, it's like when you do something stupid and you die, you know you're going to get backlash from the comments and Reddit, like, why are you so stupid? You're not going to win now because you did this. But at the same time, it's like, those are the moments people remember, you know, that's that we're here to create moments. We're here to create laughter and
we're stupid.
And on top of that, we're also not the greatest at the game. Yeah. So it all adds together.
So, the food one, just to finish off the food one, you will notice that it was removed from the finale. This was, I think, more than anything, just because it felt like too much. If there was the technical issues of turning items into food, it changes their data value and stuff, and I just didn't want someone's final moments in the series to be because they ate their sword. It's as simple as that. Like, there was the option of everything in the finale was a nerfed version of the original, pretty much. Like the size one, you could only get like half your size and not nearly as big.
Really?
Did you not notice that?
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, it wasn't as much.
I mean, I was busy being a zombie, but I didn't.
Oh, of course you're a zombie, so you wouldn't even, were you even able to get smaller?
I don't think so, because I think I was in spectator mode the whole time.
Right. Yeah.
But I was watching people get smaller. Now that you mention it, I realized nobody went to like the sub 1 club the way we did. Yeah.
Yeah. The biggest you could go was just over a block, but I removed it just because it didn't fit in with the finale, but everything else did. But that's not not to say that I don't think it was a good wildcard. It was fun and we had some great moments.
Oh, yeah.
It just wasn't something I felt needed to be repeated, unlike the other ones.
Yeah. No, I agree with you on that one. But at that point in the season, we mostly all had a bunch of stuff anyway. We would have been able to find what we needed to eat anyway, so it wouldn't have been as troublesome as
it was a good
episode
move.
2.
It was a fun wild card, and it was a good move to not have it as part of the finale. So it all worked out.
Yeah, I felt so. It had its moment. We had fun with it, but it wasn't going to. I didn't feel it was going to add anything to the finale.
Yeah. So, okay, and then the third one was a snail, which we talked about, but I don't want to leapfrog over it because we talked about the brilliance of what it was for them to develop it, but I want to talk more along the lines of this psychological aspect of it. Is, first of all, since we never know what's coming and the wild card kicks in, we're all waiting, and I hear Grian say, "Oh, there's mine." And I'm thinking, there's my what? What are we talking about? Because I'm looking up in the air, I'm waiting for something, and I see this snail, and I'm just blown away by this thing. And then I see another snail, and then I embarrassingly, man, it took me way too long to realize that they were modeled after us. And I think it wasn't until Mumbo was like, he's like, or B-Dubs or Mumbo was like, "Skizz, this one's yours." And I went and I saw mine was just so cute. My snail was so cute. And then I was like, okay, this is very, very, very special. And I wanted to touch it. I wanted to hug it. You know what I mean? But it's like super dangerous.
No, that was like
it wants to hug you, so you're more than welcome to.
It's like the deadliest thing ever encountered in Minecraft is also the cutest thing on the planet.
Yeah.
Like the dichotomy of that was super fun. And that's why I think I kept wanting to get close to it. Like I said, I wanted to hear Ollie's voice. I wanted to get a closer look at my snail.
Yeah.
But it cost me my lives in doing so.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know?
The skins were actually a late addition, and again that was Danny that put those together. And 18 snail skins. He put them together so quickly.
Wow.
Like, he's really, really, really great at what he does with the models and the skins and stuff. He also did the zombie stuff. Like, really, really, like, often in development, as you guys probably appreciate, deadlines can be tight. And so having someone turn around something really quickly is just incredible.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Did you anticipate the viewers like jumping on the snail wagon and having all the fan art and wanting merch out of it and things like that? Did you envision that at all when that was coming out?
No. Well, I mean, as I think I was so preoccupied being really excited to play that session. I was more excited to show you guys more than anything. But it hadn't really dawned on me that people would kind of latch onto the snails as much as they did. But obviously we did realize that, and we did think, oh, we could put these on the merch store, and we put the snail sticker set on there.
Mm-hmm.
So that on the merch store there was a giant sticker collection drawn by Cherryfire, and each individual stickers. And it says on the site, but if you bought one of those big sticker sheets, you directly contributed to the development of the series. So it doesn't cost nothing to make these things. So if you did get one of those, thank you, because it just it put the funding in for the whole series, and it was completely funded. So yeah, thank you for that. But
we didn't do a video call with you, G, but I'm actually wearing the T-shirt with the snails on the back. Right now, I wanted to be festive today and include it in the shot that we're doing. But it was I grabbed mine, and they're super cool.
So artistic.
And it's awesome that it helped fund the series, because that concept
huge.
now means that we could maybe even think bigger in the future as far as development goes, if there's not going to be another series. You know?
I mean,
give me a break. I've just finished this one.
Sorry.
I know.
Sorry, I'll let you breathe.
Let him breathe.
I'm sorry, but the superpowers, and we're gonna get to it, but the superpowers one was so much fun, and I'm just envisioning taking things to the next level now, because it was just amazing. But the snail thing, I definitely think was an absolute hit.
Oh, it was just
like I said earlier,
it wasn't premeditated. It wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna put these snails together and everyone's gonna love them. It wasn't like that at all. It was it started off with, can I have a snail? And then it turned into, these are the coolest snails ever.
Yes.
That's just how it went. And I think, development was happening while the series was happening. So it wasn't until the week before that, when everything had come together, that I was like, oh my goodness, these are great. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So how much time did you spend testing with the developers then?
Honestly, it felt like almost every day between Tuesday and Tuesday when we recorded. It was like we would record on Tuesday, and then during that week, we'd be talking about what needed to be done, the testing, the bugs, etc. And then I would be editing and then uploading on Saturday, and then I'd have maybe a couple days grace period, and then it'd be back on it again. Like, this is the next one. Can we get? And as we went through the series, I'm obviously learning a lot and thinking and learning how everyone's playing with these things and experimenting and exploiting them in some ways sometimes. So I'm like, okay, I need to adapt this. Or if, for example, after the snail one, I was worried about deaths because there'd been so many.
Yeah,
I was starting to be concerned that we were going to have a very short season. I did decide in the end not to hold back too much and just hope for the best, but I could have toned down stuff. Do you know what I mean? Just to kind of make sure people didn't lose all their lives, because it's very easy, as you can imagine, to overdo it. The snails was only ever so slightly overdone. If they were a fraction slower, I think they would have been fine. But the time one, which was the next one, it was a great segue.
Good job.
The time one, if that had gone even faster, it would have decimated everybody, because for example, a baby zombie would have killed you and you wouldn't have even seen it.
Oh man. I didn't even consider that. Or creepers, dude.
Yeah, honestly thinking back to it, I felt like we ended that session earlier than normal.
Because I think
it was getting hairy. I always knew that the time one was going to be difficult. Not at the start, because you can deal with anything in slow motion, it turns out.
Did we ever reach the max on that?
We did hit the max. We did actually hit the max. Okay. We hit the max, but the max, then we weren't far off the end. It was because of the nature of it, that session was hard-coded to 2 hours, whereas it's usually quite flexible. That one was hard-coded to last 2 hours, but we reached max speed, and we probably only had about 10 minutes left at max speed, but it was starting to get pretty hairy out there. So I decided to call it before we lost anyone else in that episode.
Well, ready? I'm gonna peel back the curtain a little bit on the Skizz world of recording that segment, because this is what happened. So me, Mumbo, and Green were on the top of our little meeting platform, and this is the briefing that Green gave us. He said, "Do something cool," like when it kicked in, and me and Mumbo were like, "What does that mean?" So Green drops down, Mumbo drops down, and then it starts to rain, and then everything froze, right? Because that was the beginning of it. Now, my episode kind of hid how cool this actually was, and the reason is this. What had happened was it froze, and it was completely still for a few seconds and slowly started moving. That's really, really cool. But I didn't get to capture any of that because I was that convinced that the wild card crashed the server. I thought that yes. Oh. So when I'm recording OBS, I'm recording my monitor. So since I thought it crashed the server, or I didn't know if it was client side, I clicked out of it and I was checking. I was going to check Discord. I'm like, oh, something's wrong. And then I was like, maybe it's not. I go back and now the rain's moving. I'm all, oh man. And I was so mad at myself.
I'm going to interject here because I specifically remember before that session started saying, nothing is going to break. It will look like it's broken, but it's not. I said that. Impost, you're gonna have to back me up.
Yeah, I remember.
I blew it. Yeah, well, and since Green and Mumbo had dropped out of proximity range, I couldn't hear them until I started dropping. And when I started dropping, like slowly down, that's when they're looking up at me, and one of them shot an arrow at me, and I'm just watching it slowly go. Oh man! And we're off to the races for the most epic slow motion fight ever. It was just.
Can we just acknowledge one thing though about the brilliance of how that all started, right? You could have just had it so time slowed down, but you added the rain. So having the foresight of like giving the visual of the rain falling slower so you immediately know, because otherwise it's Minecraft, you're moving slower and things might feel weird, but like I'm trying to
I'm not going to take credit for that. I actually think Brace might have suggested that.
Brilliant.
I can't quite remember, but we were in there, and when time stopped, there wasn't enough animation for you to feel it. So we needed to add something very visual so you could tell what was happening. So we added the beacon deactivating, so it kind of goes.
Oh yes.
And then the rain was there, so you could see everything like Matrix style had just stopped. And then it obviously started going really slowly, and then the rain peters out afterwards, but it was just there as a visual thing. I actually can't remember, but I'm pretty sure it was a suggestion from the dev team, which is brilliant.
It was.
Yeah.
It's super smart, to be able to visually see right away what was going on. I remember I kind of cheesed that session. I think that was a session I actually was getting sick and I didn't feel well, or I was getting over being sick. And I remember cheesing the end of it. So instead of being out in the wild, like running super fast off of cliffs and stuff like everybody else was, I was like branch mining, the fastest speed branch mining I ever have in my life. And just like, yes, give me all the diamonds.
I think Ethan did the same, dude. So a few people, well, I wanted people to take advantage of it. Like for example, with the food one, there were always ways of using the wildcard to your advantage. They weren't just, despite what people might think, they weren't just there to be an annoyance. Sometimes you could use them to your advantage, whether it's to kill another player or to just benefit yourself. Like, for example, some of the food ones gave you haste. And if you got haste, you could go strip mining and find diamonds so quickly. Like, there was some real benefits to them, and the speed one was the same. Go mining at the end of the session, you're going to find tons of diamonds.
Yeah.
But there is a really interesting behind-the-scenes fact about the time one. It was actually really difficult to do because as you guys have done developing stuff before, the client and the server need to be synced up. And when you start messing with time and tick and all how fast everything going, it can make it go out of sync very quickly. And we did a whole bunch of trickery to make things seem faster than they were. So there was actually something on the client side that made the sky smoother, because if you did, that's normally server side. So what we would have experienced was just the sun boop, 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 like glitching across the screen in huge chunks because time was going that fast. But we had something on the client side that just made that super smooth.
Wow.
Didn't even consider that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, these are the sorts of things that we kind of had to deal with. And what people also won't have known is that the player actually wasn't as fast as the server. It might have felt like it, but the player was about twice as fast, but the server was going quite a lot faster.
Interesting.
And the time of day was moving even faster than that. So everything was out of sync, but it all came together to make it feel like time was going super fast.
Yeah.
There was like 4 different things that all contributed to it. All of the sounds were pitched up or down, depending on whether it was slow or high, but it wasn't tied to anything. It was just with the as the time went on, it was pitched higher and pitched lower. It wasn't in sync with anything.
Huh.
These guys are brilliant.
They really are.
It's really clever.
And I had a flashback running for that. And the way flashback worked is that it was just all normal time. So if I wanted to do, when we were doing the slow motion fight, I had to take the flashback mod and I did, recorded the aerials and everything. Then I had to convert the speed duration to it to match whatever that speed was at that part of which is why I only did one flashback for that episode, because that was actually.
Yeah, the flashback didn't like that one because the client and the server were so out of sync.
Yeah.
It didn't quite know how to handle it.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it worked at all.
Yeah.
So that was good. I was happy about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that the player, the reason for that was that in testing, if you made the player 7 times faster, you basically couldn't play. It was too fast. But if you so the player was about twice as fast, which felt really fast to us playing, right? But the sky was going like 7 times as fast, and everything was pitched up a certain amount. And then mobs. So this is why I was worried about people dying in this, because the server was running faster than the player, if I remember correctly. Remember, all I do is I go to the devs and say, hey, I need timey-wimey to happen. And they go, yes, okay, here we go. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just kind of lay out how I want things to feel, and then I review it, and then I say, this bit needs to be faster, no, the player needs to be slower, and then they make it happen. They're doing the real work. But the player was slightly slower, but the mobs were faster. So for normally in Minecraft you can outrun a mob, but not this time. I think a creeper could catch up to you.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's why it was so dangerous. The times were all over the place.
Yeah, I think there were several creeper deaths in that one as time got faster. People just kept getting surprised by creepers.
I know that somebody ran off of a cliff or something. I remember a fall.
Yeah, I think in that one, I can't remember if we did. I know we had to do this on several different occasions, but we had to extend creeper fuse time. Because they exploded almost instantly from the player's perspective. We had to give people more time to react. So I think even though it was fast,
Jeez.
the creepers might have only been 10% faster.
So
everything was at a different rate, but when you watch the video, I don't think you can really tell.
Yeah, but it sure
was
seemed
most
fast.
of this stuff found in testing, or were you guys just all smart enough to realize it was going to be a problem?
The realizing what would be a problem usually fell to me. I would test it and like, because I'm the one with the experience in the video making department, so like when I test it, I'm like this, or you know what feels fair, and I'm like, I don't want anyone to go to an instant creeper death. That's not cool. Obviously, it still happened, but I don't want it to be a problem so prevalent that everyone gets one.
Yeah.
It's gonna be so hard to balance like the difficulty of the wild card with like keeping the pace of the series, right? Because you know we've done enough seasons now that I think people are realizing it's going to be around 8 episodes, right? We've done
around that,
right?
Yeah.
And so for you to be like, okay, if I give 6 deaths and the wild cards are going to be this, you know, range of difficulty for the players to survive them, then how many deaths does that mean over the course of potentially 8 episodes if we want the majority of the cast to make it to the finale, which is typically the goal, right? So that balancing act must have been very, very difficult.
Especially since
I mean, 18 people. Like this is also the biggest cast we've ever had for a full season.
18
full cast.
But there's it's more than it being 18 people. It's 18 very differently dynamic people. You have people who are like Scar who actually create dangerous moments. You have people like me who are just overly reckless for the sake of being reckless. You have people like Big B who are like so kind and so gentle and almost I almost never see him. You got the Sweat Squad who's over here. Just
that was our name. That should have been our name. I don't know if I've heard that one before, but it was.
That's what everyone was calling you behind your back.
Was it? I mean, we honestly. I mean, yeah. You think about the way Scott plays. He's always super, super careful.
Very careful.
Calculated.
You made walls to protect your base. Bro, we made bridges that we could fall off of frequently.
Yeah. There was a part in the finale where Mumbo and I were, or not the finale, but the one before it. It's all mixing together for me. But we were attacking you, Impulse. We had one. Yeah, it was me and somebody else. Me and Martin were attacking you. We had 1 heart each. You were decked out and geared. You had a sword, and you ender pearled away from us. I'm like, he could have sliced through both of us like hot butter if he just turned around.
Sure.
I'm like, what's that?
Sure. Yeah.
I was like, why didn't he just take us out? I'm like, we'd come right back. Like, why didn't he just take it? That would have been so cool.
You know what? Actually, I think a lot happens in the moments, right? That you don't think things through. But at the same time, I think I did realize if I kill you, then you have nothing to do for the next 5 minutes or whatever it is, the cooldown.
That's fine.
And I kind of like, I was like, I'll let them live because I can get away. Plus, I also had about 1 million ender pearls thanks to my superhero power.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna talk. Let's leave that. Let's move on to that. Okay, so what was after?
Well, hold on, you're skipping over Trivia Bot.
That's what I'm saying. I don't want to go to it. I want to move next.
Yeah.
I think after the time one was Trivia Bot, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go into this because we got to bring somebody back.
Let me say something first.
Do it.
Trivia Bot was the one that wasn't planned. When I started the series development, there was always one wild card that I couldn't quite come up with. There was there's a few scrapped ideas in the pool, and I just couldn't come up with one. And I always said to the team, like, I don't know how bad people are gonna, how many lives people are gonna lose, and I always wanted a wild card in my back pocket that could give people lives. And I was like, how do I do that? How do I give people lives and it not suck or feel cheap or dirty? And I just kept coming back to this like idea of trivia. And on the face of it, trivia sounds so boring. It's it's just answering some questions. It's like boring. So when I proposed it, I said, the presentation is everything.
Yes.
It's everything. And so that's where Trivia Bot was born.
Yeah. And it was beautiful. It was so endearing, and it was so like, again, have no idea what to expect. All of a sudden there's just this robot just coming out of the sky and landing. And I think the first trivia, yeah. And I'm like, what? And it was all life-based questions, all based on past
floated
seasons.
in like Mary Poppins.
Yes, dude.
The model of it reminded me of Grumbot mixed with something else. I mean, like, and then the audio of it on top of it, like the game showy vibe. Again, Ollie got involved with that, right? I think I saw Ollie actually made a video.
So so there was this one was the most stressed I've ever been. There was a lot of work and moving parts in the background. There was the physical coding side of things, you know, getting the trivia bot to spawn in the right location, to pathfind to you, and all the behavior. And Henkel Max did the majority of that, and again, he smashed it out of the park. But there was a lot more to trivia bot than just the physical mechanics. There was the model, which we all know and love. I'll actually show you guys. I don't know if you can see your Discord, but here's like an early concept art. I actually approached someone we all know from Hermitcraft, Hoffen, who's done a whole bunch of models and stuff in the past. And I said, hey, I need a Grumbot meets Metaton from Undertale. Can you do it? That's what it is. It's Grumbot meets Metaton. And that's what she drew. So and good. I think I did one of my things where I send a GIF that's like, yes.
Yes.
You know what I'm like.
So perfect.
So that's what they sent, and I was like, yes, that's exactly what's in my head. I think I gave them a description. I was like, I need this, an umbrella. Do you know what I mean? I just get in a suit, and it's a game show host, and that's what came back. And I was like, yes, I love it when an idea is thrown back, then it's exactly what I was hoping for. So Hoffen smashed it out of the park with all the animations. The trivia bot looks like a genuine like game show character. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So authentic.
Yes. Like no question.
And like I said, the audio complement to it was just perfect.
The Orion sounds was the music. In fact, and I wouldn't, again, it's a thing I would not have noticed had Green not kind of forced my hand, because he got a trivia bot and he asked the question. We talked about it and we were like, oh, we're pretty sure it was Scar was who failed the first Secret Life task. Pretty sure it was Scar. We went back and forth. He's like, okay, I'm going Scar. And he says, but not yet. I want you to hear the end of this song. So I did, and it builds. Yeah. And it builds, and it's so good, dude. Ollie is very, very talented. I gotta be honest. I didn't know. And then I'm listening to this music, and then there's that little music video that Ollie actually did, and I'm like, yeah, this cat has got it, dude. He's got the real thing going on. So the tension just builds, and then obviously, Green answers it. But here's the other thing I didn't notice until later was if you let it go too long and you didn't answer, we know it turned into a snail because it's evil. But it was animated. Did you ever see the animation of it turning into a snail?
No.
You want me to send that to you?
Yes. Yeah. I'm going to supplement this video with everything that we're talking about now. Okay. It is crazy. And in fact, here, are you going to send it to me now?
Yeah, hold on. Let me just give me a second to find it. It's one of these files.
Okay.
Because I'm going to play it on the screen here, but it was like, even that was like super thought out, right? But I never saw it happen live because, like, well, first of all, when mine turned into a snail, it was way far away from me because Tango stole mine, And then also when Lizzie's turned into a snail, it's because she couldn't find it because I buried it. You know what I mean? So things like that.
That was funny that we all started messing with each other's, because you get a question. If you didn't know the answer, your first instinct was, I'm going to go find the person that will know the answer.
Yeah.
And because once you interacted with it, it would stay.
Yeah.
Like you're leaving it vulnerable. And so I remember just returning back to base and, the sweat base, and seeing somebody's bot there. And I was like, is this mine? And I went up to it and I couldn't interact with it. I'm like, this is somebody else's bot.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing Jimmy walk past me earlier. And I'm like, this must be Jimmy's bot because he passed me in the forest.
Yeah.
And I'm like, screw him. And I put his bot in a boat, and I put it underground to where you couldn't hear it and stuff.
Yeah. And
then next thing I know, I hear him, because I'm still in my base collecting my stuff. I hear him, who stole my bot? Where'd it go?
Yeah.
He's all mad. I'm all, being a little troll.
All right, watch. I have it. He sent it. So I'm going to put this on the screen.
Here's the transformation into the snail. And again, Hoffen did this animation, and this was one that actually caught me off guard. I was like, he needs to turn into snail, but I just thought he would just like poof and turn into a snail. Nah, he folds his hands.
Yeah,
he folds his hands
like a transformer.
Yes.
Yeah, he's like a transformer, dude.
I never saw that.
It's insane.
It's so good.
Yeah, it's so good. It's just it's so
incredible.
Good.
There was, like I said, so many moving parts to this, and this is actually a really good opportunity for me to share something that there's lots of unused stuff in this project, lots of scrapped ideas. And there was actually one of the hardest things about TriviaBot, and I genuinely mean this, was the music. Like, I spent probably 2 or 3 days scouring Epidemic Sound, scouring every audio library I could, trying to find a theme song for this guy, and I just couldn't find it. I couldn't find the right thing. And I actually approached someone else that wasn't Ollie that produced this really great theme tune for him, and it was actually stuck in my head, and I really liked it. But the problem was I realized that I actually needed a music package and not just a theme song. Like I said, presentation is everything with Trivia Bot because you're just answering some questions.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to go elsewhere to Ollie and say, look, I need a lot of different sounds. And trust me, there was lots of different sounds. He had to do the vocals for, I think there was 9 different variations for correct and incorrect. He goes, "You're so handsome," and all that kind of stuff when you get it right. And he goes, "Snail brains" if you got it wrong. Do you know what I mean? There was a lot of audio sound effects and not just the theme. I'm happy to send to you actually the original if you want to play like behind the scenes. You can hear what the original sounded like.
Yes, absolutely. Send me all that.
And it's funny because like when this is happening live during recording and stuff, like there's so much going on, and you're worried about getting it wrong and what's going to happen to you, and you're so focused on. Well, I was just focused on its face. Is it going to turn green or is it going to turn red? Right. That I miss out on all of those things happening.
You would have noticed if it wasn't there, though. You would have noticed.
That's just how it works.
Flat, right?
Well, that's okay. So we come from drumming, and we come from marching style drumming, right? And we understand what it is when a line's clean or not, and we know how to clean it and all that. If you're a non-drummer, you don't know what clean and dirty is. You just know what drum line you like better than the other. And you can't even say why. And that's what this is. It's all the polish that just exists that kind of goes seemingly under the radar, but it's still visceral to us. We still feel it. We're just not noticing it in the moment,
Yeah.
It's just so good.
So this is the alternate soundtrack that I paid for here. This was actually made by someone called Zera. I want to kind of shout out everyone that was involved, whether the stuff got used or not.
Please do.
Because it was really good. It just, sometimes things don't work out or they're not quite right for the project. That doesn't mean they're bad or anything. They're actually really good, and I had it stuck in my head. But I needed a whole package, and that's when I turned to Ollie, and this was really late in development, so Ollie turned it around extremely quickly. So yeah, it was just one of those things.
That's amazing. It's so funny because like being part of it, like I knew that through our discussions and stuff, there was multiple developers involved, that Ollie was involved. Like the more names that you keep bringing up and saying, oh, we had Hoffen, I didn't think about that, and other potential music being used. Like so many people were involved in the back end of this project. Yeah, that just it's crazy. And you were the puppet master. You know what I mean? Like how busy you must have been trying
Manager's a better word.
Yeah. Well, you're more. This is actually what I would consider to be a program manager because there's so many different tiny projects within the season that Green, and I'm not trying to blow up your head, but I want to recognize your part in this for what it is that you were the program manager and you had to manage a lot of different type of talent to get to a certain date. And our job, Impulse, was to show up and hit record.
I know.
That was our job, right? We got to just reap all the benefits of all this amazing hard work. And that is why when it came down to the finale, which I knew I wasn't going to be in, but Green said, can you keep that spot open because we might need you to just kind of come in as a zombie. I knew I wasn't going to make a video out of the finale. I knew that, but it felt good. It felt good to just be like, I know it's peanuts, but whatever I can do to give back to the series right now. You know what I mean? I will sit here on this server doing nothing for the several hours that you guys are recording until that one moment I'm needed, because I'm happy to, man, because this series has meant so much to me and I hold it in such high regard. I'm happy to give back. So you're nailing it. Everybody's like doing their part except you, me, and the rest of the cast. We just show up and hit record. We just get to enjoy it.
It would equally be nothing without everyone that turns up. And so far, we've never had anyone not turn up. So equally, the series is nothing without the entire cast.
We actually got pretty lucky this season because there has been seasons where like somebody's computer broke or something, and we had subs for them.
But those have been known about and planned for most of the time. No one's just like not shown up. Pearl's been late because she slept, but that's Australia for you.
And Ren almost missed it because he forgot we changed recording days.
Yeah.
That's so funny. That was this season, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. I think did we change the date, and also we had to do it on a Monday instead of a Tuesday for some reason. Like, where's Ren? And then I think Martin's like, is he streaming? And he looks and he just sees. You can just see Ren's face go, uh-oh.
And he had just started.
Yeah, he just started to stream, and everybody's like,
he's like, hey guys, what's going on?
His chat's like, aren't you supposed to be somewhere? And you see his face, like you could actually see his face look over at Discord and see all of us in the recording room.
You can see his pupils dilate.
Yes. And he goes, hold on. wait.
You can see him check the date as well. It's brilliant.
That's so funny.
Wait, let me just backtrack a second, because we were just talking about how many people were on the trivia side of things. There's a whole other squad of people that I want to kind of shout out as well. We talked about me like kind of managing the project a little bit, but I actually had to manage this project and not know all the variables sometimes. I can't know everything, otherwise it's spoiled for me. I didn't, as is very apparent from the episode, I did not know a single one of those questions that went out to everyone.
Nice.
I didn't know any of them. Didn't know the questions. I didn't know the answers. The test questions were like, what's the meaning of life? And it would be like 42 and, you know, all that kind of stuff. They were just testing the mechanics. I actually had to assemble some viewers who were willing to help out with that. And I actually approached Cherry, who did the art for the snails, and I said, do you and your friends want to put together some questions for me? And so there's a group of about 8 of her and her friends, including Hoffen, who put together all of those questions and answers, and that was no small task. They had to, fact check them and check videos and stuff. So I am so grateful to that group who really, like, at the last, they didn't have that long to put that whole thing together. Like I said, the trivia one was the least developed of an idea, and it all came together very close to
the questions were so good.
They were so good.
They were so good. I had to relinquish control on that. I had to say, you guys, you have control. And the only thing I said was like, in an ideal world, we get 50% right and 50% wrong. And you know what? I think that happened.
Yeah.
I think
it felt that way. It definitely felt that way.
It felt that way. I think I got more wrong than I got right, but at least I got some of them right. So they absolutely smashed it on the difficulty, the tone of the questions, the variety of them. They had, I think they even had some that, would be tailored. It was tailored in a way, by the way, that you couldn't get a question about yourself. So Big B was never going to get a question about who was Big B's partner in Double Life, because that would be too easy. Yeah. They would know that. So they were tailored against each other. So it was encouraged that you would have to leave your bot by design to go and find out the information you need and come back. And it was also intentional that you could move the bot. Right?
Yes.
It was, like I said, there was always a way to weaponize the wild card.
Yes.
And
stupid Tango! Just chuck my bot. Just put it in a boat.
People didn't do it that often, but you could put the bot in a boat and take him away.
Yeah, that's what Tango did.
Yeah, exactly.
And he cost me, man. He made me. I was gonna maybe get that one right, and instead I got a snail.
Well, we did it to Scar, which interestingly led to our alliance, because I convinced Mumbo to drill down to Bedrock with his with Trivia Bot, and Scar came back and he was just like, oh man, my bot's gone. And it was just so real that he was like genuinely upset. Like, we're never normally like upset, and I could just tell that he was a little bit like, oh man. And I was like, oh no, I've used my insider knowledge poorly here. It's difficult. I normally have to reserve myself every single session because I know too much, and that sometimes is kind of rubbish because I don't get to experience the same thing you guys did. That's why I said I was like a bit jealous. But this time I was like, let's mess with him. Let's use some of that knowledge. And he actually died to the snail, the VHS snail.
Oh my god!
And I was like, oh no, I wanted him to be scared of the snail, but I didn't think it through, and it happened. And then I was like, okay, I need to make this up with him, and it led to a very genuine in-game canon like alliance. I was genuinely like really okay with Scar. Like we were definitely like in a genuine alliance, as opposed to a few hours ago where he was on my enemy list.
Yeah.
And that happens a lot in the series. Your best friend turns into your enemy and your enemy turns into your best friend like that.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
It does.
Can't trust anybody.
Well, you know who was making me crazy was, and he's one of my favorite people in the world, but Jimmy like had this gift of just thwarting any trap I could possibly be a part of. Remember we made that sick TNT launcher and Green and Mumbo went down just to show me where to stand in order for when to fire. And I was like, my boys got my back. I love these guys, man. And that's when Scar's like, do it. They're saying do it now. I'm like, no, they're not. Shut up. And it's like going on and on. Finally, I'm sitting there waiting and I'm like, okay, and it just vanishes because Jimmy snuck up behind me, triggered it, and killed both my boys right in front of me. Yep. So he ruined my trap and he killed my boys. I'm like, I want him dead now. And that's what makes this series so great, man.
So people are like, oh, you're so stupid for going in the danger zone. Well, yes and no. One, what it does is it tests your relationship with someone on the server. Like from that moment on, had a vendetta against Jimmy.
Yep.
Like, and I didn't drop it for the entire season. Like, I genuinely, every time he was like, hey dude, I'd just like stare him down and give him a swipe and that was it. And like, so yes, I put myself in danger, but I'm testing my relationship with other members. And because he betrayed that trust, he then lost me. And then, spoiler alert, I don't know, I'm assuming people will have watched the finale before they watch this, right?
Yeah, there's plenty of days.
100%, yeah.
Yeah, so it then came back to bite him because I said to him every episode, I think, at some point, I went, I'm going to take you out of this series. Every episode from that point, I was like, you are going to leave by my hand. And then lo and behold, in the finale, I said that brilliant, like I was really happy with that like one-liner at the end. I just went, Jimmy, it was always going to end like this. Boom. And got him. And it was full circle. It was perfect.
That right there is the reason people think it's scripted.
Yeah.
Because that one-liner feels very scripted and thought out.
Yeah, it does. But
I was thinking about it in the moment. I had enough time to think about it.
Yeah. But I mean, what Impulse is saying is the fact that you said it all the many episodes ago in every episode.
The foreshadowing.
That's what makes it seem like it's scripted. But when it comes down to it, I mean, I know I'm clapping the cast on its on the back here, but it is a bunch of talented entertainers. It just is who have come together and sort of been cherry picked for this incredible thing. And then it's backed by this top tier development crew and these artists. And it just goes on and on. And even right now, as we sit here, Impulse, talking to Green, I'm learning that there's so much more behind the curtain than even I thought. And I actually thought I had a decent grasp on what was on the gears that were behind, but I did not. And it's just fascinating. Okay, I want to go.
We have to move on to the hero.
But I want to, because
what was it? Trivia. We're done with trivia.
We did trivia. Now, Then there was the mob one.
I've said my piece about trivia.
Remember the mob one?
Oh, the mob swapping one.
Yeah, mob swapping. This was my final episode.
Well, hold on. I'm sorry. I just wanted to go back to something I said earlier about the wild card and the trivia bot. I had that in my back pocket because I said I wanted to add lives, right, in case of emergency. And I was very close to doing it. And at the final moment, I decided it was cheap. I was like, I don't want to hand out lives. Like, end of story. You get 6, and that's it. That's the integrity of the show. And so that was that. So that's why
that's the right choice.
He doesn't do it. He doesn't give you lives.
We got lots of great gear.
That was the trade-off. I was like, he's going to give you tons of great gear. And then I felt so much better about it. All right, we can move on to superpowers now.
No, okay. So well, we got to talk about the mob swap first of all, right? We did the one where there was a mob swap where
mob swap.
Yeah, it would turn. Now this was my final episode, and this was where there were all of a sudden there's tons of passive mobs would exist for about 8 seconds, and then they would all turn into random hostile mobs. And we're not talking skellies and zombies. We're talking like there were ravagers, there were evokers. It was really dangerous.
Even illusioners, which aren't in the game.
Yep.
What is that?
They're an unused mob, but they still exist in the game, but they're not, you'd never find them in a vanilla setting. They're they look like wandering traders and pillagers, like they're in a blue
mixed
like,
together,
mage outfit.
Oh, I did see those. I was like, what are those guys? Oh my God.
They're not used because they're so broken. They're so overpowered.
I didn't get
But
close to
put them
it.
in
We
anyway.
saw one, but I didn't get close to it because I knew that. I forget what they do. They like blind you, and then they also like duplicate each other so that only one's real.
That's exactly it.
Yeah,
they blind you, which makes you slow, and then they duplicate into 4 different illusions, and only one of them is real. So hitting them is just a pain.
Yeah. So yeah, I didn't dare approach one. I shot it from afar, but I did notice that it was in there. Some people got surprised because like didn't like a Ravager spawn and immediately take people out, and the Evokers were definitely deadly because the Vexes are always tough to deal with. So I think a few people might have died to those.
The Vexes are always the worst one.
Yeah.
So
but what we actually did there was a few things we did for Mob Swap. Actually, Mob Swap was slightly toned down. By this point, there was quite a lot of people on low lives, and I didn't want someone to just like have 4 Ravagers around them and die. Right?
Yeah.
So this one was turned down. That's why there was an awful lot of sniffers, an awful lot of camels and stuff. But there was still enough danger there to pose a threat. But it was toned down about 50%. So it wasn't quite as crazy. But one of the things we did was what are they called? The Evokers. They would normally drop a totem.
Mm-hmm.
We removed that.
Oh,
there would have been a lot
people
of
tried
smart.
it. Yep, they went for totems. Instead, there was, and I mean this with all sincerity, there was a minuscule chance that either a Wither or a Warden would spawn during the session. There was a very high likelihood we got through the whole thing without a single one spawning, and we made it so that whoever killed those guys did drop a totem, which felt like a very justified prize for that kill. I couldn't, and this is where here's the evidence for this never being scripted. The stupid Warden got stuck in the water and everyone just wailed on it with some tridents. And I was like, that was me in the moment going, oh man, this sucks. I mean, in my head, I was going, that sucks. This is not what I wanted to happen. I wanted the Warden to punish everybody.
Yeah, but it got stuck. The best part is Green didn't even have a trident. And he sat there, he's all, how come I'm the only one without a trident?
Unbelievable.
Yeah, these things happen.
Yeah, thanks for the totem. I totally put that to good use.
Yeah, so Pearl got it and then gave it to you.
Yeah.
I don't even know what happened to it.
Yeah, so I got hit off of the same pillar that Skizz went off of multiple times because I was up there. This was during the superhero one. I wanted to swap somebody up to the top of that thing because it would be funny to just suddenly be falling off of that, right?
Yeah.
Even though I knew at the time that they had resistance and they would live,
I
just thought it would be a
that.
jump scare for somebody.
Yeah.
And it was getting towards the end of the session. I really just wanted to goof a bit. Well, Jimmy had been invisible as his superhero power. And so I went up on the thing and I walked right past him and he used his wind charge to hit me off. And I had fumbled my hotkeys. And instead of like just using my hero power, I accidentally swapped to my totem. And then I fell on the ground instead of teleporting.
It saved you. Oh yeah, of course, right.
You
so
could have.
That was.
That's
Well,
the one thing to
At
swap
least you
to.
didn't lose a life.
Yeah, I didn't lose a life. Although, I mean, we could talk about like, would that have been better for me in the finale if I was on red and not hunted? Maybe,
Yeah.
but and still had the totem.
Yeah,
You know what I
okay,
mean?
yeah.
But
Yeah.
the totem in play definitely was cool. It was nice having that. It became a little bit of a storyline where I was like trying to hide it from people, and then as the superhero
It's nice
power
that there was
got-
only one. It's nice that there was only one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was cool. So just real quick on the mob thing, how come you didn't just spawn in the hostile mobs to begin with? Why friendly mobs first that then turn potentially to hostile ones?
So it's all about the visuals, and like Trivia Bot, the presentation is everything. If a whole bunch of mobs, hostile mobs, just pinged into existence, and suddenly you're met with a whole ton of stuff, it just felt unfair. However, if you have a whole bunch of passive mobs, you can look and see where they are, get yourself out of harm's way. You have plenty of time to react to it, and then it turns. So if you're caught in the middle of them, it's on you. I'm trying to make it a skill issue as much as possible because you had time to pillar up, you have time to hide, you have time to dig down and ride it out. If you're stuck in the middle of the mobs, that's kind of on you at that point.
Yeah, it was brilliant because I do remember, again, my powers of perception weren't as good as my teammates. So Scott was like, oh, a whole bunch of passive mobs just spawned. Quick, go kill them. before they turn into hostile ones. So I was like, oh, is that what happens? You know? And then that became part of the game.
Yeah.
So like, that's why I asked you the question, because I was like, that was actually really, really well thought out to do that instead of just bang, there's your hostile mobs. Good luck.
Yeah.
You know?
No, that was definitely the right way to approach it. And it gave him like, oh, that sweet little sheep over there. That could turn into a wither. You know what I mean? Like
there's also this element of anticipation as well. You're like, you see all these passive mobs and suddenly you get a very good idea of the scale of it as well, because you can see how many there are, and then you're like, these are all going to turn, what are they going to turn into? And like your position is given so much more context, that method, than just spawning in a whole bunch of stuff and it's like, hey, good luck.
Yeah, for sure. No, that was a super smart move. Definitely the way to go.
Cool. All right, let's get into superheroes, man. Okay, because I've actually been wanting to ask you something for a while. First of all, the superheroes one was just so very cool. And Mumbo and I were part of it from a zombie standpoint, because as we know, one of the gifts was being able to summon zombies to be your minions. And that was Zombie Cleo, right? Pretty. So it definitely felt like the superpowers were tied to the individual. And I don't know how right I am on that, or if I'm completely off base and it's all coincidence. What I do want to know, Grian, and I'm just curious, was there a superpower for me that I never got to see because I was out too soon, or was that not written yet?
No, there was never a superpower for you.
Oh.
There's the superpower one was actually, again, a late addition to the whole thing. And I have to again say his name, Henkelmax. He did all of it in like 4 days. Like I did actually do some work for this one, I promise. I actually, spent a long time coming up with the different superpowers, what they could do, how they would work, and I wrote down everything in a big document, and then he went through and just plowed through it all and just coded so much in like 4 days. And it was just so impressive. And he was like, he was saying like managing my expectations. He was like, this is really tight. And he did it ahead of schedule because he's just that incredible.
Wow.
I honestly, this series wouldn't have worked without the team behind the scenes at all. It just wouldn't have worked, or it wouldn't have been as good, at least. But the superpowers in general were a later addition. And it was tough to come up with enough superpowers for everyone. And well, I could have come up with more, but the important thing for me was, again, fulfilling that criteria. I didn't want superpowers like super strength, because you could walk up to someone and punch them and they'd die, right? It's a superpower and it works and we could make it super easily, but it's against the ethos of the series. Yeah. So that's why so many of the superpowers were about espionage, like sneaky or disguising or social in essence, or movement based. Because those were not ones that you could use as offensively as the others, right?
Yeah. So you don't have to answer this, but I want to ask: was my ability of teleportation assigned to me or random?
It was totally random, that one.
Wow.
So I will disclose
insane.
that some of them were random and some of them weren't. I can tell you which ones.
Yes.
Okay, please.
Cleo's was assigned to her because of her name. Yeah. Purely because her name is Zombie Cleo. She summoned zombies. It was brilliant. It just worked. And that power obviously only worked because you guys had died the previous episode.
Yeah.
That only worked because you and Mumbo were already out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was perfect.
It was perfect.
Like we could put that together. It was a superpower. The original one for that one was actually just talk to the dead. Like you could just have like a voice channel with the dead and they could spy on you, was the original one. And then I thought, why can't I just bring them back? So it turned into that. But so Big B's was assigned to him. Obviously, he had this whole creaking kind of narrative throughout his series. My job isn't always to be fair to everyone. I try to be, but my job is also to facilitate every single person's videos.
Yeah.
If me giving someone a specific power enhances their videos, why wouldn't I do that? Like with Big B, him having the creaking fits his narrative so perfectly. Yeah. He had no idea that he didn't request it or anything like that.
Yeah.
It just fit.
So good.
So it's just about that. Lizzie's was also, LD Shadow Lady. She cast Shadow. Again, it's in the name.
Oh, very good.
Mine was the Mimic. which ended up being a little bit of a curse. I felt bad because I was like, I was really conflicted. I was like, am I really abusing my position by giving myself the mimic, which, by the way, is the coolest power there because I get to try all of them.
Yes. Yeah. That is fun.
But
I mistook yours, actually. I thought you were like Sylar from Heroes, where you were collecting them and you could use any of them at all times.
No.
Yeah, because at that point I was like, if that's what he's doing, that is so OP.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It actually wasn't as there. It might had some detriments that I learnt about in the actual recording. I actually died to my own superpower because I didn't think things through all the way. And that's part of the reason I gave it to myself. One, it is the coolest power, but two, I was worried that if someone else had the mimic, they would spend their entire episode not knowing what they're doing, because you saw how long it took everyone to figure out their own power, the limitations and everything. Someone with the mimic with no knowledge of anything, I was worried would end up hurting themselves more than I did. That they might die a lot to the mimic power because they would take someone's power, not understand how it works properly, or just end up spending literally their entire episode trying to figure out every single power and not really living the episode. So that was the secondary concern, but I also wanted the coolest power because I made it by thunder.
Well, if you had the coolest power, I feel like I had the second coolest.
Yours was
like
cool.
being able to teleport, being able to specifically swap with people.
Yeah.
And did we end up coming up with an idea to cheese it and make it so like really OP? Of course, right? The obsidian box strat.
It was amazing.
It was something I came up with on the fly just because Scott wanted Ren to prove that he had the underwater breathing, which he told people it was a lie. And so he wanted to box him in and put him underwater. Ren wasn't falling for it. And I realized if I get in the box and then I teleport, swap us, he didn't have a choice in the matter.
Yeah.
And from there, we came up with the idea of we could do this to anybody and kill them. And there's nothing they can do about it.
So you can tell that I had already thought that you would think of this, right? Because I added something to that power to make sure it couldn't be abused. Your power is the one I was most worried about because it's the one that's the most lethal. Although it doesn't seem it at the time, you can TP anyone into danger. And just instantly kill them, to TP them into lava, and they'd never know any otherwise, and they'd just be gone.
Most people said that, like, why don't you just light TNT, stand in it, swap with somebody, and then they blow up? Well, there was resistance. I did it to Tango. I went up to the Skizz death tower, and I stood up there, and I swapped Tango, who had super speed, so this is perfect, because the second I swapped with him, he speedily ran off the beam and fell, but he landed on the ground safe and sound. Because he still had the resistance. Otherwise, I would have just done that to everybody over and over again. And everyone would have fell to their death. It would have been super OP.
Yeah. But it was
part of my job was to try and think how people would try and exploit these things.
Wait a minute. Right? How long was that invincibility?
It was long enough that Tango made it all the way to the ground.
5 seconds.
Yeah.
That makes so much more sense, dude, because you spawned in... like when you spawned in Joel into the obsidian, I was hacking him forever. Like, what is happening?
He was alive for a very long time. He had resistance 4, which basically mitigates almost all damage.
Yeah.
So you could swipe at him all you like, and nothing was gonna. He was in lava being swiped by about 4 or 5 people, and he just wasn't taking any damage because. Admittedly, I didn't really think about the obsidian cage scenario, but I was thinking about being swapped into lava, into a hole, off a cliff, those things that would provide instant death. But yeah, the obsidian cage thing was maybe an oversight, but I had thought about it enough to put resistance in so that you couldn't do it.
I will admit, like the first time doing it, the first kill in the obsidian box it felt good. But then after that, it felt a little more and more dirty.
No,
because we did it 3 times.
I needed blood. I needed blood.
I agree. It needed to stop.
Yeah.
Well, one time, Ren, his superpower was looking like somebody else. And you went after Joel, and you brought him in, and we started hitting him, and he turns into Ren, and Ren's like, guys, it's me.
That was hilarious. Because I had 2 targets that I really wanted to get. I wanted to get Tango, and I wanted to get Joel.
Yeah.
And Tango's zooming around the server. I couldn't get him, and I look over, and there's Joel, air quotes, standing there, and I'm like, well, I'll just swap him in, and then just the same, kill him. And suddenly it's Ren's voice coming out. Guys, no.
One of the criteria of the superpowers was, how can this interact with someone else's power? How can I combo this? How can I make the interactions better? That's why Scar could sit on people. That's why the Scott's power could turn into a creaking. And I spent the first half an hour of my session going around making sure everyone understood the boundaries of their power, because it would have sucked if they didn't know that they could do a certain thing.
Yeah.
And that's why I didn't want someone to have the mimic power and end up being floundering for the whole time. So at least I was able to copy and show what they were doing and have fun moments. Like me and Martin were on telephone to each other because we could hear each other from a mile away.
Oh, that's awesome.
Which was pretty funny. His was a random one. It just again landed brilliantly on Martin.
Dude,
Scars was actually tailored to him, because he literally, after every wild card, I believe he punches Jimmy just to see if something would happen. So my thought was, if I gave him knockback and the wild card went on and he punched Jimmy, he would immediately. Maybe I could kill Jimmy from behind the scenes.
Yeah. I mean, actually, that power did Scar well, because he was racking up the kills with that punch.
Was he?
He was knocking people off the cliff left and right.
He also
I
saved.
I know Scar enough to know that that's exactly what I wanted him to do. He wouldn't hesitate to punch someone off a cliff, and that's exactly why he got the knockback.
He saved somebody from me killing them. I don't know if he meant to, but I was a zombie and I was instructed to go kill, I think, Joel or something. And I came up next to him and I put down obsidian and I put down an ender crystal. And just as I went to hit it, Scar comes up and hits Joel and punches Joel like way far away, and ends up protecting him from the blast. I'm like, what are you doing? I was like, come on, man.
That is one thing about life series. Like, all your best laid plans never go to the way they're supposed to go. I mean, I made multiple traps, but because I made them in our own base, hoping people would visit, and nobody ever visited the sweats, like my traps never got used.
But do you know why?
Because everybody knew
you
they
were
were there.
Sweating.
Yeah.
No one wants to walk into a trap. I actually ended up stopped using my own base because I was convinced Etho had put a trap there.
Yeah.
I don't think he did, but I was just convinced he had.
Lesson learned.
You know what happened at one point? So my thing is, because Grian said to me, it's all about patience, right? And I actually do have, believe it or not, I can actually exercise extreme patience when it comes to waiting and hiding and all that. And I was spying on the Bammers up on the mountain, right? That so well. I was listening to their entire conversation. I was inside their base, dude. I was carving out dirt anytime they were talking so they couldn't hear the blocks breaking. I was there, dude. I was a ghost. But this was the trivia one. And my trivia bot comes raining out of the sky, like blasting music, and they're all, "Whose bot is that?" And they're like, "It's not mine." And they're like, "Is this Skizz? And he's spying on us?" And I come out of the dirt. I'm like, "Yes!"
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
It was good.
That's really good. Yeah, patience is a lot of people build traps and then they get really disappointed when they don't work, and that does happen. Like there's happened to me multiple times. I've made traps and they've failed or didn't work or they never got set off, and it's really, really frustrating because you put so much time into specific traps. And in the finale, my big moment, the big trap that I wanted to set off was the Bam Bunker explosion, and I'd actually set that trap up like, I don't know, 45 minutes before, and there was no guarantee that I'd even get to use it.
Yeah.
But I set it up anyway because I was fairly confident that they keep holding meetings in there. Yep. And so I was like, I'm pretty sure they're going to go here. So I set it up, and lo and behold, Scar dies, they call a meeting, and I'm like, my time has come. And so I head on over there and I set myself up, and it was just brilliant. It is definitely my favorite moment from the series.
Oh. So good. That if you think about it, go back to season 1, Third Life, you blew up the entire desert.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Didn't kill anyone though, did I?
Didn't kill a single soul.
Didn't kill a single
biggest explosion in life history, and didn't kill a single soul.
Yeah, well, because we had sick gear, like crazy sick gear. And, but I remember I was running away from the explosion, and it was like a movie because I'm running through the desert with the explosion chasing me and collapsing the ground behind my feet. It was so great.
Well, season on season, I learn what helps facilitate this series, and maybe people don't necessarily know, but it's evolved quite a lot.
Oh yeah,
from season 1. Like, it's crazy to think back in in Third Life, we didn't have keep inventory on. We dropped our stuff.
Yes.
And it was just a nightmare getting yourself geared back up.
We didn't have any rules against the enchantment levels. We didn't have any rules against Potions, we were trading with villagers for the most OP gear. I was anyway, because I was sweat back then too. So and so then then when it came down to traps not killing people because the gear was too powerful,
because everyone had blast protection on.
Give up on that. We start PvP, and the PvP fights lasted 10 days.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So a lot has evolved in the series to now where we have some rules. Most of them are still pretty loose, but we do have things set up to where things are going to be more enjoyable from the way deaths happen.
Oh yeah.
You know?
There's keep inventory on. There's the thing is that Minecraft itself, PvP wise, is broken. If you have a strength potion and you're totally geared out, no one has a chance of killing you. Not a million years. A single strength potion makes any fight a 2-hit situation because it's just that broken. PvP is in dire need of a bit of an overhaul in Minecraft because of the enchantment system and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
So acknowledging that as time, I didn't appreciate that when Third Life was going on. I didn't think about how much people would invest in their series. Like I think in Third Life for me, I didn't gear out that much because I'm not a sweat. But some people did, and it became very unfair.
Yeah.
So we're now at the point 6 seasons on where you can only the maximum you can get is protection 1. And that's it. And all the other enchantments, they just don't exist.
Yeah.
And it
so
felt
that
great.
no one has that crazy advantage. And you know what? You can really feel it now. You can really feel that there's no crazy advantage.
One creeper explosion behind your back is going to take you out where before you would live. And it's just like, oh, come on. You know?
Yeah. We got to remember, Grian, back then, I mean, you were literally referring to that first season as an experimental series. And because we didn't, and that's what it was. And you got into the lab and we created a good show out of it. And I don't think anybody would have been able to tell the longevity of this series. Like it was an experiment that we all really, really enjoyed, and it was very well received, but it did evolve organically because there was so much to be learned, and here we are. You cannot, let's not do potions. You can't get higher than this. It just doesn't, what it ends up doing is it ends up working against the integrity of what the series is supposed to be about, and it keeps us all in sort of an even playing ground, and then let the story commence, and it just let it breathe, and it's just so good, man.
It's been such a fun ride. For sure.
Yeah, I think in a way, Third Life being so experimental and janky led me to be hungry to improve it. Because I was like, oh, I know where this went wrong now. And so it was like we had an issue where people just weren't dying because we're too good at the game, too geared out, whatever you want to call it. But like we had, green syndrome where you're kind of just green and just hanging out.
Yeah.
That's when Boogeyman was born.
Oh,
yes.
Boogeyman
Bring
was
back
brilliant.
the Boogeyman.
Yes.
And then it just like, and then after that, I'm like, oh, so there were some issues with this one. How can I make this different again? And it's, despite what people might think, and I really love the saying that you've said before, your comparison is the thief of joy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you compare series, that happens.
Yeah.
It's really not healthy to compare.
Agreed.
It's okay to have your favorite or whatever, but it's not necessarily fair to compare seasons or think that it's all about one-upping the last one. It's really not about that. It's more about trying to set up something different. I know that a lot of people would love to just see us rehash the first one with all the updated stuff, and hey, maybe we will. But for me, and I know for the group, it's about experiencing something different. We've already lived the first one, and I'm not saying we wouldn't, but we wouldn't want to do that 6 times in a row. We want to have a different dynamic every time.
Yep.
And the twist that changes each time, limited life, double life, having something different that changes the way it feels entirely. It's more about us, to be honest. It's more about how we enjoy the series more than anything. And that's why I want to do something different with each series. And
I agree. Keeps it interesting.
That's why I wait until I got something in my head before we go ahead and make it.
And well, the proof that what you're saying is completely honest is that, and this, Impulse, is at the end of the recording sessions, especially this season, because with the Wildcards, Green would actually say, how was everybody's recording. Was that fun? Did you guys have fun? Like you would always say that. And it was like such an honest inquiry in regards to, did you all just enjoy the last couple hours of your life? Because that was sort of my goal. And the answer was a resounding yes. It was so much. It was so, how can I be this old of a man and be having this much fun? You know what I mean? But I am. Nothing like gets me excited anymore, man. But like every time the boop, bloop, bloop, and here comes the new wild card. What's it gonna be? Yeah. Like every time was just so excited, man. So yes, the answer is yes.
I'm really, really pleased to hear that because yeah, like you said, I feel a lot of personal weight from for everyone in the group to have a good session, to have a good video, to have good content. And there's been many times where I've come out of a session thinking, oh man, I didn't enjoy that. It went wrong for me in so many ways. And I'm like, I didn't enjoy today. And then I'm worried like, oh goodness, has what I created not been okay for everyone else? And so that's why I'm always so anxious to like say, did everyone get a good episode? Because that's what I want. I want everyone to have a phenomenal episode. But then I put it in editing and it always edits up so well.
Yep.
There's always something. Even if you feel like you've had the worst time, it always edits up and like, actually, there was funny bits here. I'm getting hung up on something silly, like a trap not working 4 times.
Yeah, it's interesting that happens because I've had sessions too where I came out and it was never anything like, oh, I didn't like the wild card that Green came up with. It was never that. It was like I was disappointed in, oh, I spent the entire time mining for diamonds and I have no good content. But then I go back to editing and I find out, oh, actually I did go out and do some things that were fun. Like there was way more to it than I thought. So I got down on myself after that session and for no reason really. Yeah. It still turned out to be a great episode, even though I was mining in the, branch mining for half of it.
Yeah. Oh, it was just so much fun.
Such a fun time, man.
This was a different dynamic for me, like being with Mumbo and Grian this time. I mean, I just fell ass backwards into that crew. Like I literally found them sort of at the 11th hour when we were the sub 1 crew and they were like, come on in. And I came in and we're having a fun conversation. All of a sudden we're all little. This is a thing. It might last 1 episode or 2. Who knows? Turned out to last all the way up until Mumbo and I died. And it was just so much fun because like every single season I'm trying to like be, do something a little bit different, but I always end up falling back into the old hats that I'm comfortable with, which is like leading a group or coming up with some grandiose plan to do one big bang out thing. Like when we blew up Bread Bridge, that was a very, meticulous operation and all that. And that's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun doing that. But there was something about this one because I don't play with Mumbo a lot. And Grian, it felt like Grian was the big brother and he has these 2 little brothers that mom told him he has to watch.
Exactly what it was like.
Yes. We just would not stop messing around and putting ourselves in danger. And you could tell Grian's like, guys, stop it. Mom's going to be so mad at me.
Oh, yeah, it was exactly like that. It was like having Tweedledum and Tweedledee. And I had to follow them around, making sure they weren't going to eat something that killed them. Quite literally had to follow them around, making sure they weren't doing something stupid. But it was so funny. And I knew that you guys might not make it to the end of the series, but that's part of the fun. And I want to take this opportunity, Skizz, to apologize for the way I reacted when you died. Because I was just like so ready. I was like, somehow this sixth sense, I was like, he's gone. Oh, I'll see you later, Skizz.
I got blown off the tower. I don't think my body had hit the ground. And he looked at Martin. He saw Martin, want to be friends?
Yeah, I was eyeing up Martin, being like, you want to be friends or what's the deal? What's the deal here?
No, nothing to apologize for.
That's what makes this group so good, though, is like this cast gets along so well. And like none of the jabbing at each other that we do is ever like taken seriously off camera for sure. Ren felt bad because he killed me and at a time where I didn't really deserve it or anything like that. And all season long he was apologizing. I'm like, there's absolutely no animosity. You know what I mean? Like,
zero.
Like it's part of the fun. It's part of it's part of the drama, part of the concept. And so I love that we all get along so well and on camera and off. And I think it really does show in the end product.
Well, but I think like let's unpack that a little bit, right? Because you and I come from the industry. I was actually talking to people on a Hermitcraft server about this very concept yesterday. We come from a place. I spent 20 years in the industry, and I worked with a lot of great people I really like, and I also worked with a lot of people who I did not like. I specifically didn't like them, and I know it's hard to think about Skizz disliking somebody, but it does happen. And I did not like work. So that's normal to be on teams with people that you just got to grin and bear it, man. The life cast every single person genuinely likes, and this is a big and, genuinely likes and respects every single person. I don't know. This is an unheard of thing. For 18 people to be able to get into a room and everybody is keenly aware that there is a mutual respect across the board. What that does is that creates a safe space for us to go make a show and get mad at each other on stage and then get off stage and all that. It was just character mad. It's 100% character mad because we know what the genuine article is and we're all committed to it. And that's something that's very, very special.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Green, you've created an amazing thing.
Yep.
We are forever appreciative of it for you allowing us to partake in it. What do you think? You said that as the seasons go on, basically, it's if there's an idea that comes to your head, a twist that you feel is going to reinvigorate and be amazing. Do you feel like this might have been the last season, or is it a sit and wait and see? I'm throwing hardballs now.
Yeah, don't make him answer that.
I'm not. I'm saying, is the door shut, or is there room?
Hard. It's hard to say that there's not going to be another one because it doesn't feel like it. It doesn't feel like that's the last one.
Okay.
I like
I think it will be.
That's good.
It might be hard to top that one, and this isn't an arms race with myself. It might not be as exciting as the original. It might go slightly more back to Third Life roots. I don't know yet, so don't hold me to that. But for me, Wildlife was definitely the most enjoyable. I had a lot of fun. But yeah, it's definitely not closed. I would love to, as long as people keep enjoying it, then I'd love to keep doing it.
Well, you said so yourself, Green. Comparison is the thief of joy. You just referenced that. And so don't compare it to the other ones. Whatever, if we end up doing another one, it's going to have its own charm, just how every single season has had its own charm, you know?
Yeah, you've got to try and take each season as its own individual project. They all just fall under the umbrella, the family, but each one is its own character, its own member of the family. Then none are quite like the others, but they all follow a similar thread and theming.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this: I'd like another go, and not because I'm still trying to win. I think I actually
don't you lie to us. You're trying to win.
I mean, if we play enough of these 18, can we do 18 seasons? At least then the odds are in my favor of winning one. But no, I would love
close
to do
getting a repeat win on this one.
Yeah.
I am a little bit upset with how it ended. We haven't actually talked about the finale. Do you want to talk about the finale?
I didn't know if you had time.
I wasn't around for it. Yeah. For the record, I wasn't around for the very end, so this is going to spoil it for me. But I'm okay with it. Go ahead.
Well, in the final moments, I was genuinely trying to kill Joel. He was just, I don't know. He's having the time of his life. He was just, he'd already won in his head. He'd already won. And I was actually going to fight him to the actual death. I was gonna really go for it and be like, you know what? I tried really hard on this. I can take a second win. And he just walked up there and went, sorry, Grian, and knocked me off that tree and into my death. I threw an ender pearl to try and save myself, and then I was going to get back into the fight, but I hit that floor before it even landed. I just, in those moments, they're really quite stressful. And your hands get so sweaty, and your heart's going. Joel was cool as a cucumber. He had already won in his eyes, and he just finished the deal. So that was... I think it was a great ending. It was a great ending. In a way, it was good that there wasn't a repeat winner, but I was genuinely going for it.
Good.
I just never really got going.
It figures. Now, I mean, you are sweaty Impulse, but you don't hold a candle to the sweat coming off of Joel. He is.
Well, there's a difference. There's a difference. Joel's sweaty and he's really good.
Exactly.
I'm sweaty and I suck.
You don't suck. You're sweaty.
I bet he slept like a baby.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Here, you don't suck, not by a long shot, but he is very, very good. Plus, he's pretty much the nucleus of the Sweat Squad. Even though he wasn't on your team,
right?
He's a sweat.
And him and Jem together, it's like, how is one of them not going to win the season? Yeah.
There's a reason Jem didn't die to her snail. She's sensible. She's got more than 2 brain cells.
yeah. Smartest one in the group.
You know, one of my missions given to me by Zombie Cleo when she was my master was she just handed me a bunch of TNT and said, "Go blow up that car." That I have never been so happy in my life. I went over there, I infiltrated, and I just planted TNT everywhere and blew it up. And that's why Joel just kept finding me and killing me the second she summoned me back. He was so mad.
Are we all in agreement that the car sucked?
No, I disagree. I know that's that scene with Mumbo, like trying to get the words out that the car was the worst thing he's ever seen. I remember being like, this is such a testament to how bad of an artist I am, because I think it's pretty good.
Me and Mumbo talked about it a lot. We were up there in our base, and I'm just, for some reason, it just felt like a creative world all of a sudden. Why has he built a car in the Third Life series? It really, like, it broke my immersion in quite a real way. I was like, why has he made a car? It was completely irrational. I just hated the thing, even though I pretended like I didn't.
I liked blowing it up. Don't get me wrong, because it was Joel's and it made him mad. That made me just so gleeful. But I remember like second guessing any sort of artistry I might have, because they were both bagging on the car, and I'm all, I think it's kind of cool.
Just an odd thing to build in a series like this.
Yeah,
I think I have no idea why they built the car, but I think that since they were the family, they were like, what represents family? And they're like, a family car. That's what I'm thinking, but I have no idea.
Been a minivan, not a hot rod or whatever.
Maybe that would have made more sense. Yeah, it had a blower on it. Yeah.
So with the finale, right, there was some things behind the scenes that had to happen. This time I was fully informed what 18 people playing those wild cards would look like. So I had to really adjust everything so that the finale worked well. And my key goal with the finale was to create safe chaos. Maybe that didn't quite go to plan, but I wanted to create a situation where everyone knew what was happening because they'd already relived it, but nothing was so strong that it would kill you. And that was my main goal. The snails were 60% the speed of the original. They were slow, like really slow this time, but they still got people.
They still did.
Yeah, well, Joel was rude enough to make mine invisible.
Very smart.
Brilliant. And he weaponized the wild card, which is a completely legitimate and intentional way of trying to win the series in my eyes.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have felt bad if someone had won the series because they turned someone else's snail invisible. I think it's smart.
Great.
It's a smart thing to do.
Yeah.
And, it's coded in so that they can go invisible for that very reason.
Yeah.
There was only 2 ways to counter the snail, and that was going outside the border, because they couldn't get out the border, and dropping it down in the void. And that wasn't going to happen.
That wasn't going to happen.
So there was really no way of getting away from the snail. But I actually put together a timeline, a very precise timeline of when each wildcard would start, when it would stop. It wasn't random. It was a perfectly manicured schedule, ending, of course, in all the wild cards are activated. So you got a taste of the chaos. Everyone was kind of thinking, are they going to do all of them at once? And the answer was kind of. And then yes, for 2 minutes. And you got an idea of how bad of an idea that would have been. If that had been the whole session, that would have been terrible.
Yeah, absolutely right.
But
and it wasn't just like retread them in order either. Like you'd specifically organize them so it was a different order that would make sense to kind of like ramp up through the finale. Right?
Yeah. So it did start fairly slow and some like individual ones on their own, but then all of a sudden they'd start overlapping. So it was intentional that there was the trivia bot and then the snail, so that someone like Big B was talking to his trivia bot and the snail would catch up to him. That's on him because he didn't think about the repercussions of those 2 wildcards. It's not like every other session where you're not informed. Like you've played through it, you know how the wildcard works just as well as I do.
And it was kind of cool by then too, like when we got to the superpower one, because then we had a chance to see what other people had done with their superpowers. And I feel like the second time around, like you got somebody else's superpower and you're like, oh yeah, they were able to do this. And then like Joel took mine to the next level. Like he was teleporting around like crazy.
He was so good at it, dude.
Like, one of the best scenes.
I didn't utilize it well enough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But you didn't have tons of people chasing you. This was the final hour moment.
Yeah.
And so he was being hunted down by everyone. You think was he still yellow? Was he red? I don't know. I can't remember.
He was yellow at that time.
He was yellow. So everyone wanted to get rid of him.
Yeah.
Like we kind of have this like unspoken agreement that the yellow's got to go before we knock someone else out of the series.
Yeah.
Like because we don't want them to have the advantage because they'll then end up winning. Right?
Well, you kind of glossed over that, Green. We have literally never said it. It is an unspoken agreement. It's just something we just never discussed, but just get.
It's just understood that like that's going to feel better if everybody's on a level playing field for the end.
Yeah. Yeah, but
so there's a tactical element to it as well. You don't want, if we left someone on dark green and everyone was knocking out the reds, you're handing them a win.
Yeah,
You're handing
yeah,
them a
exactly.
win.
Yeah, that's
because
fair.
they've got 6 lives to go and kill someone with.
Yeah.
So it's important tactically to kind of try and get everyone on the same footing in the final moments.
Yeah, no question. Yeah, he was yellow and he had the power, the swapping power. Dude, he
was going crazy.
It was crazy. That GIF fight, I was like, this is what it looked like. And I did the GIF of Neo like blocking all this stuff.
It was like an anime sequence of some kind.
Yes.
Like, whoop, whoop,
Yes.
whoop, whoop, and then I swapped him out, and I thought I was saving him. It turns out he was just giggling. He was just going, just laughing and going mad. It was brilliant. It's exactly how I kind of wanted those moments to play out. You never know beforehand how they're actually how the cards fall, and it fell perfectly.
It did.
And for the finale, all of the superpowers were 100% randomized. Nothing was tailored to anyone. Nothing was scripted. It was just random. The one that was removed was B-Dubs' power because it had no real use outside of the original one.
Yeah, it was cute for B-Dubs, but
it was good for B-Dubs, for that one where, all out war wasn't going on. But in a wartime situation, going to bed is not that great. Yeah.
Probably not. Yeah.
So,
that's something
I think the finale worked out perfectly. Obviously I went out early in it. But I had a fun time watching how it all just transpired from there. And I think it ended really well. I think it was a perfect climax to a really fun season with a really cool concept that you guys just knocked out of the park between Grian being the coming up with the ideas for a lot of the things, and then the development team and the artist team, and everybody involved. It was just a group effort and a great season in general.
It really was. It really was. Grian, thank you for joining us on this, man. This was very, very unique, getting even more of a look behind the curtain and learning more about it. And I'm sure I speak on behalf of the very many people watching and listening right now that obviously we hope there's more. We can't guarantee there's going to be more, but obviously we hope there's going to be another season. But let's let Grian breathe a little bit, man.
Yeah, take a break, dude. You deserve it, man. You deserve it.
There was a big gap between if you ignore real life and there was almost a year, I think, between what was the last Secret Life and this one.
Yeah.
And sometimes it just needs space, but I'm really grateful that people come back and really enjoy it, and it's I'm just really, really grateful for it. The finale episode, it was really important to me that when all the wild cards had been done, they then all faded so that those final moments were true lifestyle.
Grassroots.
Where there was nothing, grassroots, nothing interrupting. What you did throughout the series culminated in what you were ready for in those final moments. And the timing just worked out perfectly. There was a few people left after that moment, and it ended all within about 10 minutes. And I was really happy.
Frantic ending the way everybody would expect it. I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it. It was so good. Oh man!
So
as much as we don't
guys.
Want to close the book on this season, it's time.
I know
it's time.
I don't know what I'm going to do in my week now. I've got I spent the last 8 weeks almost every single day doing something to do with Secret Life. There's not Secret Life with Wildlife. There was just so many different cogs and people to talk to, and some weeks we were developing the week afters at the same time. So there was. Yeah, you have to consider like the Snail one was weeks of development. So it wasn't just, a few days of snails, then we moved on to the next one. There was stuff going on concurrently. So it was really quite an intense 8 weeks. And again, I just want to thank the development team behind it all. The Henkel and Bread and Brace and Danny and Hoffen, the artist, the trivia guys, Ollie, literally everyone. It would not be possible without them. And they really saved me. They really saved me on this series, and I'm so grateful, and I really hope that they will work with me again on the next one, whatever that may be.
It was beautiful.
Excellent.
It was beautiful. Yeah. Oh man! All right. Well, hey, thanks for hanging out with us today, Grian.
Yeah,
no problem.
Super fun.
I got a feeling.
You told me this to be an hour.
Well, we had too much fun.
When
man.
the conversation gets amazing like this, it's hard not to just keep going, isn't it?
No, it's too good.
But yeah, thank you for all your time today. We'll let you get back to what you got to do. Sounds like you have some extra free time anyway, but
yeah, no. So, and to everybody who's watching and listening, if you have not caught up this season, make sure that you get caught up on it. I don't care what kind of spoilers happen. Make sure you're checking out other people's POVs because everybody has got a different, unique story to tell. And they're just too much fun. All of this is way too much fun. And if there's another one, I'm very much looking forward to that time. So again, Grian, thank you so much for being the architect and the driver of this. Thank you for joining us. And
thank you for having me.
We'll see you next time, buddy.
See ya.
You want one last little bit before we go?
Yes, please.
Well, you guys know about this. We all put our zombie skins on at random times to throw you off the scent of who would win, because we know you're lurking trying to find out who changed their skin.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. We're toying with the audience that we know are watching Name MC to see what skins are getting changed, trying to figure out what's going on whilst we're recording. Yeah, we threw you off the scent a little bit.
Yeah. You guys know about that stuff. I don't. All I know is that I was one of the first zombies. I put my skin on, and then there was fan art of me and Mumbo as zombies. I'm all, we haven't even recorded yet. I was like, what is this?
Oh, that's amazing. Oh, so fun. All right, man.
All right, man. You have a good one, brother. Thank you.
Hello, Skizz here. Hope you enjoyed the show, and I've got some trivia for you. Did you know that you can get some of your own behind the scenes with this very podcast? That's right. Over at patreon.com/Imp&Skizz, you can be part of an exclusive lot who joins us every week for a private pre-show. Here we address live comments and even seek some feedback on upcoming podcasts. We'd love to see you there.